Okay, we're in the middle draft stages of writing the Antigone essay, and I want to go through how do you get through those middle draft stages after you got the early one done. And it's very important at this point in the class, you should have your discussions done, okay? Now, I do want to give everybody a little heads up that if you are still getting notices that you're missing an assignment, yet you did the discussions, don't worry about that. I will fix that. I just got to get this done. I'll fix it today or tomorrow sometime. So don't worry about that. If you've done the discussions, you're good. I'll enter the grades. Don't worry about that. But what you should have done right now is you should have finished the 3 discussions for scene 1 and 2, for scenes 3 and 4, and scene 5, and have all your metaphors picked out. And definitely you should have the early draft stage completed, where you've got your quotations, started writing about them, describing them, and analyzing why they're important. And you really should, for your essay, focus on metaphors and breaking them down, okay? So that's what you should have done before you've started on this. Now, I really want to emphasize that you've taken care of the early draft stages. And one of the things you must get down is learning that writing is a process. And what I went through in that writing process video was the idea that, well, it's not even an idea, it's a reality that your brain can only handle, your working memory can only handle so many tasks at once. Remember that multitasking is really a myth. What your brain does is switching. It switches between tasks, and every time it switches, there's what's called a cognitive context. And every time it switches, it slows down. And it does things worse than it would do than if it focused on one thing at a time. And in writing, you are doing multiple tasks at once. If it's a no-brainer essay and you're just writing a summary of your summer vacation, it's easy to write, and it's easy to keep your spelling in good shape and your formatting. It's not tough to do. But when you're writing analytical essays, like you're going to be doing throughout college, and you're thinking intensely about the subject matter, and it's very complicated, you have got to handle one thing at a time, or only 1 or 2 at most, and not try to do everything at once. If you do that, all of them are going to suffer. And my experience in all these years of teaching is that so many students work so hard on things, and then they don't know why they write so badly when they get to college, and they know that grammar, and I know what they're doing is trying to rush through the writing process, and I believe that they knew the grammar, even though the grammar comes across so terribly. So what you need to ensure is that you take care of a limited number of things at each stage of the writing process. Don't try to write it rapidly and just crank it out very quickly, because you're going to your brain's going to say, hey, I'm not going to do all of this at once. I can only do a few things at a time, or I'm going to make some things pay for it, and your final grade will pay for it. That's what you want, and you're going to be writing at a lower level than what you're capable of. So keep the writing process in mind whenever you're undertaking writing. It never gets really fast. It always has to be broken down into a process. If it doesn't, then it's not a very difficult essay. And analytical essays are inherently difficult because you're going to be using your analytical skills. So the way I'm giving you the process for this one is we're looking at the evidence first, developing ideas, and then coming to a thesis in a little bit. In the middle draft stage, we're going to come up with a thesis. You can come up with your thesis early on. You can do things that way. I urge you not to. I urge you to kind of reverse the order. It's a little bit unnerving because you don't know quite where you're going, and that can be scary. But I urge you to do it because you find things through the process of reading and analyzing and writing. And you come up with a thesis that you had no idea about when you started writing. You had no idea. And that's kind of neat. It's kind of scary, but kind of neat. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to urge you to do. But you can write with the thesis early on, but just expect to revise it later on, okay? Let's see what's going to happen. You saw I got an essay going last time, and I've gotten it in the middle draft stages, and I want to walk you through some of it, okay? Let me show you what I got, because I'm not done yet. I shrunk myself down a little bit. Here's the middle draft stage. Here's the early draft stage. And what I did is I copied and cut and I pasted all that stuff in the early draft stage. And this was what I was working from. I cut and pasted it over to my middle draft stage sheet. And let me show you that. Here it is right now. If I keep too many of these open, they crash. So I wanted to close that out. And let's move this over a little bit because we're getting a little snug over there. Now, this is, I was working in the early, the first body paragraph. I copied and pasted, or excuse me, cut and pasted it. I prefer to cut and paste from the early draft stage to the middle draft stage. I just grabbed this from the early draft stage and I cut it with the X, and then I pasted it with the V and moved it right over here. So that's what I did. And this is exactly the same as what I'd written in the early draft stage. That's what this is. Karagos describes the battle that took place between the two brothers and their two armies. Okay, and that's what I had early on. And then I cut and pasted the quotation over, and I make sure I got the page number. The page number's in there. So, or the lines, I should say. Get your lines in there because it makes life easier if you got them early on. And remember, with this text, normally we're going to use page numbers. With this one, we have to use line numbers because we don't have any page numbers. So that's the quotation I had. This was the description I had. And this is the analysis I had. And you could check. If you want to go back and check the early video, you could see it's the exact same stuff. But in the middle draft stage, I've kind of added something here. And you can still, I still have not left space for an introduction at the start of this, not yet. And the directions are really not focused on writing, but they're a lot on rewriting the quotation. Rewrite and revise the description. Rewrite and revise the analysis. That's what we're going to be doing, okay, primarily. We're going to get to the introduction by the end of the middle draft stage. But let me show you, and I did most of the body paragraphs. I did 2 of them already. But let me show you what I'm going to do here. Now, what you should do here is you've got this quotation here. This is the Karagos speaking to the chorus. That's where it is. This is early on in the play. Let me set the context of it. About the civil war between the two brothers, Theocles and Polynices. I don't know about you, but I've always had trouble spelling those names. And Polynices, let alone capitalizing them. Between the two brothers of Theocles and Polynices. And apparently I can't spell civil. That's okay. Which resulted in both of their deaths. Now again, I couldn't copy and paste this over from the early draft stage because this is something new. I didn't set the context in the early draft stage. I have to do it now. That's fine. Karagos is careful not to side with one brother or the other, but he makes the suffering of the city clear in his remembrance. I can't spell. Remembrance, or that's not right. There we go. Now I've set the context. Great. And I have the quotation here. 7 captains at 7 gates yielded their clanging arms to the gods. Karagos describes the battle that took place between the two brothers and the two armies. And I'm revising now. Notice I'm keeping the sentences I already have and adding onto them. The focus is not on adding new sentences. That's not the focus in the middle draft stage. The focus is on developing the sentences I already have, and that's going to make them better. Because what you're doing in the early draft stage, you're coming up with your ideas, and those ideas are probably good. But to write a really good essay, you're going to be more detailed and precise. This is something very important to keep in mind. In the middle draft stages, you're not coming up with more new ideas. You probably already gave all your ideas in the early draft stage. What you want to do is cut down more deeply and more precision and refine and develop what you're doing. So notice I'm not still doing stage 1 stuff. If I come up with a new idea, yeah, I'm going to write it. But my primary focus is on revising what I've already done. Remember, my working memory can only handle so many things. Can't be texting, driving, and changing the radio at the same time. I've got to put the phone down, drive, and maybe find another song. I really hate that Ozzy Osbourne song. Okay, so let's try this. And I'm doing this right now. Let me see. Karagos describes the battle that took place between the two brothers and their two armies as a time of great violence and noise. Oh, nice writing there with all caps. The attacking forces of Polynices are described as yielding to the gods, who breaks battle lines. To the god, I'm going to say Ares. I'm going to move that up here. Who breaks battle lines. Okay, I'm looking over it. The attacking forces are described as yielding to the god who breaks battle lines and has taken the side of Eteocles' army, but not Eteocles himself. One of the things I noticed early on is that Ares did not attack Polynices or go to the support of Eteocles. He just went against the army. And that became much more important as I was going through the later draft stages, that the gods and Karagos don't take sides within the royal family. They take sides on the armies, but not within the royal family. Oedipus and Oedipus's children, they don't take sides on, okay? Or with Creon, they don't take sides. And that was, I didn't know that when I started this, but that kept happening. The two brothers are left staring at each other in rage after the forces have been dispatched by Ares. Are left staring at each other in rage. They're staring at each other in mirroring. Are left, I would say, reflecting. I'm going to say, because he notices each other in their appearance and in their emotional states. Because he says mirroring, and I wanted to pick that up. Ares isn't, I've already mentioned Ares, so that's less important. The two brothers are left reflecting each other in their appearance and in their emotional states. That sounds awful. And notice it just sounds bad. That's what I use. I talk about good writers using their built-in shockproof shit detector. That just sounded bad. My shit detector was humming. It just was screaming. Reflecting each other in their appearances and in their emotional states as they raged during the war. They are left to battle each other, and I'm going to get rid of that, and do so for a long time since they are so evenly matched. That's better. I like this better. Notice that I've basically kept the same thing. It's the same stuff, but it's taken a little bit further. If I had a little more time and I could waste a little more time on this video, I would take a little more time and refine this and develop it a little bit more. So, boy, that line Brothers in Blood, I've got to do something with that because that's too cool. Because that reflects, it makes it clear, this is battle, and that's the blood of battle, but it's also the blood of family. That is magnificent writing by Sophocles. It just is. So I got to write something about it. Hold on, just be patient with me. The recollection of, who are we talking about? Karagos, picks up that this battle to the death will spill the blood of two brothers who share their families' bloodlines. So I just like that. I got to do more of it. It sounds still kind of clunky, but it's got to be in there. And then, so this is now refined. That's what I do in the middle draft stage. I keep what I did before, but I make it better. That's what I'm doing. I'm not rewriting everything. I'm revising, developing. I'm listening to my shit detector. I'm listening to those voices inside my head over the hum of my shit detector and just making it better each time. Karagos describes the god of war as deciding to push back the forces of Polynices, but the gods have no say in the battle between the two brothers. I'd say the conflict, I'll call it between the two brothers. The personal fight between the two brothers who are so evenly matched that they're described as mirroring each other in every way. Karagos is aware that the gods do not favor one brother over the other, even when one brother is committing an act of treason against his own city. Karagos is aware that the gods do not favor one brother over the other, and reflects that even-handedness himself, even when one brother, God, I hate even-handedness as a word, but I'll come back to that later on. When one brother is committing an act of treason against his own city, the gods let fate take its course. The gods and Karagos let fate take its course. There, I'm going to leave it there. That's my analysis. I'm putting Karagos in line with the gods. That's what I'm doing, and that's going to come back to my thesis. Now, I worked on those other body paragraphs before I started this video, and I set the context for the second body paragraph, copied over the quotation. I revised this description. I've already done it. Okay, it took about as much time, and I revised this analysis. One of the things that's happening is all of them are getting longer, significantly longer by being revised. I'm making them sound better, and I'm developing it more. I'm taking some sections out that I don't like. Many of you, when you write, you might fluff things up a little bit in the early draft stages, and I want to emphasize that's fine. Don't worry about it in the early draft stages. If you're writing phrases like, in this essay, I will be discussing, it is a fact that, take that kind of silliness out. That's called meta text. Many students do that. In the early draft stages, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and shut up and write, is what I always tell myself. In the middle draft stage, refine those sentences to make them sound better, and develop those sentences to make them sound better. Revise and refine. That's what you're doing now. You shouldn't be adding whole sentences much. Maybe here or there if you want to, but mostly what you're doing is revising and refining what you've already done. Okay? So, and I did that here already too. And I did it for the third body paragraph. And remember, I'm only writing 3. I'm cheating. You need to write 4. That's, your teacher is kind of a jerk, and so you got to do 4. But I'm only doing 3. But I set the context for the Tiresias quotation at the end. Okay? And I revised this right here. I revised this one a lot, a good deal, on Tiresias. And I revised this. And I've got to do it a little bit more and connect him to Karagos. And I'm going to keep doing that. Warren's type is proportional, which creates a fear in Creon since he has been so inflexible and merciless with his treatment of Antigone and Polynices. Yeah, and Tiresias, he's in your face, man. He's not messing around. Karagos is, let's talk about it. Tiresias is, let's not talk about it. He's in his face, but he's being clear. He's on the side of the gods, but he's making... Karagos has let Creon dig his own grave. Polynices is telling him, you're going under. It's too late, so there's no more kindness in him. Tiresias' warning indicates that the gods see all the royal family as above any law Creon could enforce. Now, Tiresias is aligns himself with the gods just as they are, just aligns himself with the gods in much the way Koragos has, but at this point there is no opportunity to listen to good advice, but only a chance to hear his fate. Okay, so that's better. So I'm making the connection between Koragos and Tiresias at the end to a degree. Now, this was going to be a fourth body paragraph, but that's, again, I'm letting myself off easy. Here is my attempt at the introduction. What you want to do with your first try at the introduction, and notice where I've placed this. I want you to write the introduction after you've got good body paragraphs put together. You've got them. We've really got the backbone of the essay up here. We've got it. You know, it still can be shined up and everything else, but you've got it. It's much easier to write an introduction now. And what my rule of thumb is, I'm not going to, I'm warning you right now, I'm not going to go through and count your sentences. I'm not going to do that. I got better things to do. But rule of thumb, my thumb has paid attention to this kind of stuff over the years while I've been grading. And my thumb says good rule of thumb is about 2 sentences for every body paragraph you have. So for your first body paragraph, give 2 sentences in your introduction. For your second body paragraph, try to write 2 more sentences in your introduction. For your third, 2 more. And for your fourth, yeah, 2 more again. And that generally is going to give a good overview of your essay. And that's generally what I've done here, is I've tried to give 2 sentences for every body paragraph I have. And you can see I was working on the end here. The failure of Creon to show restraint with the royal family leads to his actions against both Polynices and Antigone, which have deeply offended the gods and lead to Tiresias' blunt warning that the gods will bring him down. This is Tiresias in the position of describing Creon's fate for not heeding the advice of Koragos all along. So now I've brought them kind of together towards the end, but you can see I kind of gave a little bit of background on the play in general up here, that they had this civil war and blah, blah, blah. But then you know from these sentences where my body paragraphs are going to go. There's not, after you read this introduction, you know what my essay is going to do. You know. That's what the introduction does. Think of your introduction as a roadmap. After you look over the roadmap for your trip, you know where you're going to go. If I gave you a map from, you know, Victorville out to Vegas, you're going to go through Baker and see the thermostat or whatever that thermometer thing is. I heard it's fixed, but when I was there, it was broken. And you're going to know, you're not going to end up in Ontario. Your introduction is your roadmap. It's going to guide you through everything as you're going through it. No surprises afterward. Don't see it as kind of a mystery novel. Your introduction goes over everything. Your body paragraphs are going to prove things with precision and detailed writing. That's what they're going to do. Introduction, give it the roadmap. Give an overview. 2 sentences per body paragraph. Try to do that. That's my thumb. He's been grading with me for 26 years. He kind of knows how it works. That's kind of weird. Okay. Now the thesis statement. I give you 2 tries at it. Try it twice. The thesis is a nightmare. I'm going to try it right now. Koragos warns, shows that he is aligned with the gods by advising Creon to show restraint with both Antigone and with Polynices. He's aligned with the gods. And by not taking sides within the royal family, which is what Tiresias also does with his, what does he do? His warning that Creon is about to be punished by the gods. Now, this is a bad thesis, I gotta tell you. It's really rough. It's clunky, I don't like it, but you notice it kind of brings the whole thing together. That's what your thesis should do, okay? I'm going to rewrite it again. I won't have you guys sit through my attempt to rewrite it again, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write it again and try to clean it up. But notice what my thesis is doing. It's trying to bring all of the analysis together. I'm trying to show how Choragus has been restrained and even-handed with the family, and he's been advising Creon quite well in line with the gods, how they would probably see it. And Tiresias comes along and basically says it's too late. Tiresias makes it clear it's too late, but he's also aligning himself with the gods. Okay, I need to bring that together into a more elegant sentence. My shit detector is telling me this thesis, oh my God, what were you thinking? But it's kind of an okay one so far, but it's still really rough. So I'm going to rewrite it. Okay, again, after I shut off the video, I'm going to rewrite it, and I'm going to probably do this tonight and take a little more time and go through this. And then you can see what I will have at the end of the middle draft stage is a pretty good thesis, a good shot at the introduction, and I'm going to have all these body paragraphs. What I'm going to be doing is copying and pasting this into a Word document and putting it back together like a bunch of Legos. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow morning. I'll have that posted, the last video, by noon tomorrow. And you're going to see you've got this kind of backwards right now. But I hope you can see you've got all the pieces. And you've done it one little piece at a time. And now you've got it. And we're going to finish it up tomorrow and send it in. And I'll go through all that stuff tomorrow. Boy, you've been patient through this video. I know it's not exciting, but hey, the end product will be far better if you've been more patient. Okay? Take care, you guys. And again, stay patient with yourself as you're learning. Take care.